Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time for a bit more update news from the official boys. Basically, Esmin and also Stoner are sharing some news on the forums. Basically, both of them are community managers, and obviously, they're usually one of the best places for information about the game because they represent the company. So I thought we'd go over a few things that have been talked about the last few days and talk about kind of the update coming up, which is still getting configured. I'm sure it'll either be out tomorrow or the next day. Be very odd if it isn't, especially since there's obviously the summer sales that are going to be coming soon, because that's usually, at least in the plans, over the last half a decade or so. So, let's get into some of the thoughts, and if you enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe and also like it. Let's go! So the first thing is it has been fully confirmed now that the C3604 is going to be in the tech tree. It's no longer going to be a premium, which I think is really awesome. It's so much better that it's going to be in the tech tree because that just makes it much more playable and also is another unique Swiss vehicle that everybody can get access to. Basically, there was a screenshot showing that it's going to be between the HE112B-0 and also the Focke-Wulf 190A1, which doesn't make a lot of sense since it's a strike aircraft, but sure, why not? Might as well stick it in there. A very, very weird place to put it, but as I said, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. What matters is people get access to it, and this will happen, which is great. You know, I'm always a big proponent of things obviously not being premiums because I would rather people get access to them. I feel like nowadays we have an absolute metric ton of premiums, and even in this last update, there is an insane amount of pre-orders compared to other ones. At least for me, there's over $1,000 worth of pre-orders, which, I mean, it's just untenable. It's just crazy to actually think about. So when it comes to some other information, Esmin has been talking on the forums the last few days, kind of putting out some info about some of the new vehicles. And also, you know, we talked about the leak stuff yesterday, where he basically just said, look, there's not going to be these vehicles added this year. It's not in the plans. That's not what we're doing. Now, depending on how you read it, of course, you know, both sides could be true. The leak could be true. Esmin's side could be true. But at the same time, if you take it at least gingerly, what you'll find is Esmin is kind of confirming what the leaks say isn't really true. We have had times in the past, though, where, you know, members of Gaijin have said stuff isn't happening, and then it does happen, or, you know, the opposite, where they've said something is happening, and then it doesn't. So everything's still a little bit up in the air in terms of these things, so just be a little bit careful with it. The other thing is, when it comes to flagship parts of the game, so I feel like there is this kind of belief that stuff is just, I don't know, not as organized as it is. Maybe that's the way to put it. But Gaijin is incredibly kind of sorted in terms of when they're going to add stuff and what they're working on. So, for example, stuff like the big bangers of updates, so stuff like the F-14, the 15, the Gripen, the Su-27, even stuff like the Rank 8 ground vehicles when they came in, was it last year, I believe, or the year before? With stuff like the T-90M and the Leopard 2A7, all of these things are planned way in advance. Like, they're not planned just like a few months before. They usually planned a year, 2 years, even 3 years in advance, where it's like, okay, we're going to add these vehicles here, and then next year we're going to add these vehicles, and then next year you're going to do that. And Esmin kind of confirms this. Basically, he talks about the fact that these things are not, you know, planned as close together as people think. So, for example, someone was asking about the top tier jets, and he says generally these are planned up to a year in advance in most cases. Naturally, some odd vehicles move around and chop and change. Things can and do happen with individual vehicles, but the bigger ones are set around updates in many cases. So he's literally saying all these things are planned up to a year in advance, but also you have a general plan on top of that of what you're going to do. So you have the 1 year, the 3 year, the 5 year plan, whatever the company decides to do and the decision makers decide to do, these things are massively played out and massively sorted out. So somebody actually ended up asking him about the F-15 and Su-27, so when they were added, was the Typhoon and also the Rafale being planned? And Esmin says, well, yeah, of course. And then also the Hornet was also in its beginning planning phase too, because some vehicles, especially the high tier ones, take a long time to actually model and then put together, get the cockpit ready, get all the systems ready for it, and then push it forward. So these things are planned and built sometimes years in advance. And even when you have a look at like some of the leaks that have happened, like the 2021 dev server leak that happened, there is a bunch of vehicles still that was in that leak that still haven't made it to the game 4 years later. And we are even getting vehicles over the last few updates which were from that leak that turned up. So it's just kind of how it is when it comes to these things. I can't really, I don't know how to put it, but like, so as somebody who is involved in like multiple projects with my actual work, like, first of all, I know a lot of people think that YouTube and streaming and stuff is my work. It isn't, right? I actually have a full-time job on top of this. A lot of it comes down to like, you know, the way that like everything works financially. And for me, it's always made sense to do my work stuff and also to do this stuff too. So like when it comes to my actual work stuff that I don't really talk about too much, there is a lot of like planning involved. There's a lot of like timings that are involved. There's a lot of projects that are running in tandem with each other to actually put different things together. And it would be incredibly surprising if Gaijin doesn't work exactly like that, because you have to do that if you actually want to have a properly planned game. You know, they do 5 updates a year. They add a massive amount to this game. They add more to War Thunder than I think any other game does in terms of like new vehicles and in terms of new stuff to the game. I don't think there is a game that even touches it in the slightest when it comes to the amount of content added. And if any other kind of game would do that, or company would have to do that, they would have to plan this all out strategically. And that's exactly what Gaijin does with all the stuff. Because what else are you going to do? Like you can't add as much as they do and not have a very defined plan. Also on top of this, he did say that the F-15E, the F-16C Block 50, and also the A-10 will receive the Sniper Pod. So this is the new pod that was just coming to the F2 in the major update, but it looks like it's coming to a bunch of American systems as well. My guess would be the A10C. So enjoy basically having a 200 times zoom while you are using either your crazy guided bombs or Mavericks, because that's what people will actually use. So yeah, you'll be able to just absolutely annihilate things from miles away, which just makes me sad once again. I don't understand why, as I've talked about before, they make the distinction that there is a problem when it comes to CAS, and then they just keep buffing it over and over and over and over again. Why? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Oh my God, what am I gonna do? What are we gonna do? Like at the end of the day, with this, like, why is that pod needed? Why do you need a 200 times pod? Why do you need variable zoom on it? Why do you need all of these things? Just to make CAS even better than it is. Oh, but they're adding new SAM systems. Yeah, because the CAS is already overpowered. But now it's just gonna be more. So whatever. Like they're never gonna learn. They're never gonna learn. This is just going to be a constant thing, and I'm just going to have to go play other parts of the game because they're never going to learn. Simple as. But those are kind of like the ideas that Espen threw out. What I'll do is in the description of the video, I'll leave like his kind of activity on the forum. It's well worth following him and also other community managers because first of all, usually the heads are usually screwed on pretty well. And, you know, it's kind of nice hearing from them. And they are designed to be the bridge between the community and the devs, and therefore will answer questions that generally others won't. So make sure to check them out. Make sure to look after yourself. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Warthunder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shia, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.